That's right.
Good evening. I'd like to call the Board of Education meeting for Wednesday, July 12th, 2017 to order. Can we have a roll call, please? Mr.
Yes.
Alexander?
Mrs. Witkowski.
Here.
Mr. Gamble.
Here.
Mr. Nielsen.
Here.
Mrs. Evans.
Here.
Mr. Lewis.
Here.
Mrs. Larson.
Here.
And I am here.
Thank you. And the meeting has been properly posted. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 3 is approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Lewis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Witkowski. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Item 4 is community comment. There is no community present tonight, so we'll move to item 5, consent agenda. Would any board member like to remove an item from the consent agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Nielsen. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Larson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. School board announcements, item 6. Do we have any announcements? I'd like to announce that last month I visited Countrydale School as liaison and met with Ms. LaPlante, and she gave me a tour of the school, and we just had a short meeting in her office, and my children did go to that school 25 years ago, and the school's still in nice condition. It hasn't changed much, and it's a nice area of Franklin. It's a close community school, just like some of the other, most of our schools are that way. The only thing that I was not as happy about was the face of the school. I think the face of the school personally could use an update, and that's not on our list, but that was my opinion. I don't know how anyone else feels, because that's the first thing you see when you see that school, and I don't know if that would mean just even some power washing, but it's a little run down looking, but the school otherwise is nice condition. So that was my meeting.
If I could just add to that, Ms. LaPlante did have her baby last week, and she does plan to return to school the first week in September, and then she'll take 3 weeks off to be home with her baby. And it looks like Ms. Seward, who's recently retired from Ben Franklin, will come in and fill in for her for those 3 weeks.
And I want to welcome Dr. Miller to her
you.
official first meeting as superintendent. So, thanks. Okay, then we'll move on to item 7, school board calendar. We have a board retreat August 3rd, 2017 here at the ECC at 5:30 p.m. And that will include dinner. We have a regular board meeting here August 23rd, 2017 at 5:30 p.m. and an annual meeting of the electors following that August 23rd, 2017 here at the ECC at 6 o'clock p.m. Item 8 is the school board liaison reports. Is there any liaison report tonight?
Just like to mention that we do have one upcoming event with the National Night Out on July 31st.
What time does that start, Larry?
It starts at 6 to 9, and we don't all have to be there at the same time. So I think, Larry, you said you're going to send an email out
Yes.
about it to see
Yep.
who's going to be there, just so we know. And if you know your shifts, your times that you're going to be there, I guess it would be helpful. Larry, you said you're going to be out of town.
I'll be out of town
Yeah.
until the 9th of August.
Yeah, so I'll be there all night, I know that. And Dr. Miller?
I'll be there.
So it is a little earlier this year. It's usually in August, so. And I guess I could have done my Countrydale thing right now, but I did not. So any other liaison reports? All right, thank you. Item 9, reports and presentations. We have the technology update, and we have Ms. Zelinski here. Hi.
Should have attached to the agenda report procedures, no fancy presentation or PowerPoints if you want to follow along in that document. Share information with them. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to get to tonight to come and give you an update. I think it's been maybe 6 months since I last shared where we were at with technology. So tonight's going to just take you through a little bit of a summary of the last few months and what we've been working on, as well as the work that we've done this summer, what with changes and some updates for staff and students this fall. I wanted to start with a little bit about the IT team. I know I've shared a little bit about them in the past, but I think it's kind of a group of, it's me all men, that it doesn't maybe get as much recognition. So we've, besides myself, there's 4 additional people in the IT staff that take care of everything. So everything from the network, the Wi-Fi, the storage, the day-to-day Chromebooks, the computers, and the list goes on and on and on. And I just want to recognize and mention their names. Sean Kelly is one of our IT system specialists. His primary role, lots of hats, but primarily think about those kind of non-instructional systems, Power School, food service, some of those kind of ancillary tools, so all those databases, those systems, and all those things that connect to that. It's also kind of our lead person on designing or developing the images for our Macintosh computers. So obviously he does a little bit of everything, but those being kind of the two major pieces of the puzzle that he helps take care of. John Heckett is our IT systems engineer, and I think all things behind the scenes that you don't see. It's the Wi-Fi, it's the servers, it's the network, it's those pieces. Also oversees our phone system now that that is on our network as well. He has taken that on in his role. And then the other 2 gentlemen, Jay Wakulski and Sean Genke, do a similar role in that think about a lot of things, end users and hardware repairs and the Chromebooks and some of those pieces. So one has more expertise on the Macintosh side, one has more expertise on the Windows side, and Jay's been primarily the person who's processing the Chromebooks every time they need to come in for repair and some of those pieces, which has been a huge undertaking. He's also was trained as kind of the assistant to the phone system as that became into play, that he took on that role. And Sean Genke has been doing more of our iPads and some of those pieces. So that's our Project Lead the Way software. Some of those are really unique. Primarily supports the high school, so there's a lot of unique applications and systems there that are different than the rest of our buildings. So I just want to share those names with you and recognize their hard work. They're very, very, very busy in the summertime. It's probably our busiest time of year through about the end of October, where they're putting in a lot of hours to keep things going and keep things ready for the start of the school year. So without some of these other, without them, we couldn't do some of these other projects that I'm going to talk about tonight and where we're at. So a couple of things we're doing this summer relates to kind of infrastructure, and I think kind of every year we do a little bit to continue to keep that infrastructure current and with the speeds and the bandwidth that we need. So I say that on a highway, there's always that kind of choking point. There's always that slowest part of the highway. You're taking a trip and you hit that, you go from that 4-lane road to that 2-lane, and there's always that piece. So they're trying to always update those different pieces along the way. So this summer is going to have a core piece here at the ECC where we've got a lot of traffic data coming into certain components, and some server upgrades that were hitting 4 or 5 years old. With that, as well as increasing kind of that bandwidth, if you will. So the bandwidth between the buildings was great, then it kind of got here and there, they call this the bottleneck, so to speak, in terms of where that was at. So that was some updates we did. We're also reviewing our Wi-Fi and how the settings are set up to kind of better meet our user needs. So to give an example, can't promise when it's going to happen yet, but doing some research, as you know, you have the guest password when you come to the meeting. So looking to kind of set a timer, if you will. Turn an open Wi-Fi on at certain times of the day, so after school hours to maybe the beginning of the morning, so those people are here for after school activities would have access. Students would have access when they hang out at the schools without having the password, some of those kinds of things. So looking to figure out a way to make that happen, so we can open up that Wi-Fi a little bit to our users so that they have access outside of the school day. You've probably seen in the news lots of cyber threats. That has been pretty popular in the news. You see credit cards and other large companies being impacted by viruses and certain security breaches, so to speak. So one of the things we'll be doing, virus software was up for renewal, and in reviewing that process and learning a little bit more, they've kind of gotten better and smarter with their virus software to try to better protect our systems from some of those new threats that didn't exist before when we last looked at the tool. So, the word ransomware, you may have seen it, but basically they lock your machine and they expect you to pay a ransom before they'll unlock your data. And a lot of companies and corporations are getting hit by that and are kind of being frozen by that criminal activity that's happening. So some of the new software, that's one example of some of the new software is supposed to better detect when that might happen to minimize the risk of that. There's one example. So we'll be doing that change. The next area is about access to technology. I've shared with you on different occasions that about every 5 years we go through a replacement cycle. So keep our devices for about 5 years, 4 or 5 years. Chromebooks might be a little less. See how long they last over time. We're hoping for at least. And we do a replacement cycle. We do that refresh, bring them up to speed, get them current with where we're at. So this summer, the area that is in need or at that 5-year mark is most of the, or almost all of the elementary computers. So we spent some time over the last year with Mr. Sawyer, Mr. Cohn, elementary principals as well, to talk about what should that look like. You never just replace things as is because things change 5 years, curriculum changes, and all. You can make some minor adjustments along the way. When we have a refresh of devices, we take a step back and look at where we're going and what we need. So the K-2 machines will be getting Chromebooks in the classroom. We'll be getting some cards of Chromebooks to be shared. And I just brought one because it's not a pretty presentation, so I think brought out a device for show and tell just because it's a little bit different than all the other Chromebooks that we've been buying. We have a need, especially those K2, those little kids, to a touchscreen interface. So these will have a touchscreen interface, so they can do this versus keyboarding if they need to. But the real cool thing is brand new, and Google doesn't have everything quite perfect yet, but kind of good future, right? They flip into a tablet. So if you have an Android phone, it works like an Android tablet. So as our iPads are becoming end of life, and we still have some needs for some of those apps for some of the younger students, we have the flexibility to have a keyboard and do a regular Chromebook things, but they can also flip it over, use it as a touchscreen and use some of those apps. So that's brand new coming out from Google. I'm kind of waiting yet. I think this is the one we want. There's some new things coming out that, what this one doesn't have, I should say, is forward-facing cameras. The students take pictures sometimes of their work and have to explain their thinking around that work. And the camera doesn't face the right way, so if you want to take a selfie, it doesn't go in that direction. So there's a new one coming out, areas out, and we think we get a sample of it. So that's probably the device we'll be getting for those students. Couple other things, maybe not as big, I guess when we finish up elementary, nothing changes really for grades 3, 4, and 5, and 12 in terms of the devices that they have. Grades 3 and 4 all have a Chromebook card in their classrooms. We have to purchase a few additional ones to replace some that are obsolete. And grades 5 through 12 continue to have Chromebooks in the one-to-one scenario. It won't be anything new there, but as you remember, we're trying to purchase Chromebooks at grades 5 and 9, and then we keep them for 4 years. So they come in fifth graders will get new devices, they come in freshmen will get new devices, then keep them for 4 years, at which time we'll look at replacing them or reallocating them if there's any life left in those devices. And then a couple of other changes. Middle school art is up for replacement, as well as high school music. So they'll be getting replacement devices for their digital courses. And we're doing some technology updates as we look at the new accelerator lab, and we talked about everything now that Chris been working closely with that team on to get that lab up and going, and moving over computer lab to meet some needs in the metals and manufacturing area. On the besides the instructional side, I always talk there's technology touches seems like every department. So there's been some department initiatives that we have been a part of in helping with some potential changes. So we're working with Julie Freeman on, she's looking at some different replacement software for RTI monitoring, so working with her on that. The high school has asked for some assistance in identifying some digital signage software that has some that, which kind of led to really we can look at the middle school, what kind of system can we use in both places so that we have the same tools in both places as we look forward to that. Primarily announcements, information for students as they're in common areas, cafeteria, the main lobby, and potentially the library are the kind of locations that we're thinking about for that purpose. Our nursing staff has been doing a very archaic kind of paper process, and so they've been working with Julie on that, and looking for a digital process for tracking medications. Unfortunately, PowerSchool doesn't have an already pre-built in product to do that. Some systems do. They have some pieces that doesn't quite meet our needs, so we're looking at some options to digitize that for them. And lastly, human resources is the title there, I see. It's going to be implementing some new digital personnel software this summer. It's actually actively being tested right now for onboarding our employees as they come into the district. The next section is something that's been kind of a heightened awareness that we're starting to put some plans around and together, and it comes back to that cybersecurity. So we talked a little bit about the virus software being one proactive piece of that, but a lot of the breaches and data things that are happening comes back to your network security, but it also comes back to employee training. All of us experienced or saw that just a few months ago, if you're just an email, that Google little thing that was going on, and some of you might remember that really well, where people were approving and then you were getting like multiple messages from people who just randomly started taking names off your address book and doing some things, and created quite a stir across the world. So again, part of that was kind of looking critically at some of those pieces about what end users are choosing to do and whether they're reading emails critically for false information. It's not just virus programs that are out there randomly running. They're intentionally getting very smart about making it look like they're real. Like it's a real message from, say, Dr. Military or Mr. Milzer, where you want to kind of act. And so it's really kind of like pinpointing human nature to trust that everything that's coming to you with your name on it is valid and accurate. So working on two things. One, we need to kind of review where we're at from a security. I mean, obviously, we're always ongoing watching those things, but maybe taking a little bit deeper dive into making sure that we have everything the way we want it to be to protect our network. I always say we don't want to be an easy target, right? We want to make sure that we've done all our due diligence to make sure we think we're doing that, but sometimes we have to take a step back and take a deeper dive. But the bigger piece is about educating our staff, and I linked up just I spent some time this spring pulling together some resources for our staff to educate them about things to watch for some of that false information that's coming through, some of those tricks that people are trying to do to get you to bite onto clicking on that link that affects your computer, responding, even phone calls, not a Microsoft call that they say they're Microsoft tech support, you see in the news, right? It's those kinds of things that they're prying on people's intuition to trust. So doing some education along that round. And then lastly, we've been working with Dr. Miller on some potential policy changes and updates with some new topics and some things that just to review where we're at and some change that kind of revisit to make sure that we're covering all the policies relates to all those technology pieces. Next, fiber to WISCNet. I've shared with you the last couple of updates that I've given that we've been looking at getting us more bandwidth for less money, basically. WISCNet is a statewide service provider that provides internet service to probably over about 400 out of the 420 districts in the state, as well as public libraries and cities. And we have never pursued them as a service provider because getting to their closest access point was going to cost us more than for us just to go directly to the internet, so it hadn't been a cost-effective option. So within the last few years, they created a location at Ohio College, which became close enough, previously been WWM, close enough to the current location. So we did go through the process of applying for E-rate, which gives us the ability to take those costs and get a 40% discount on those costs to make that initial connection. And then after that, it's a flat rate per year cost, regardless of how much bandwidth we need. So we're at 1 gigabyte now, but in the middle of the year, we need to go to 2 or to 3, same flat rate for as much bandwidth as we ever need going forward. And when I say bandwidth, that's the bandwidth on the ECC. Everything comes here and then out to the internet. So it's that highway, if you will, that multiple lanes to make things work faster by having more bandwidth. We are at that point where we are exciting and interesting process. What's a little bit, I think, nebulous yet is, it won't be done for 2 years, so what is that technology gonna look like in the classroom? So I don't have a crystal ball, I wish I did. Would make it a lot easier to know what that's gonna look like, but certainly can at least put the infrastructure in place and as far as we can tell to meet those needs to teachers. So, okay.
So,
That'll open up the questions.
so do you plan on transferring any technology from the existing schools, smart boards and TV monitors and?
Well, we'll transfer a few things, but more probably things behind the scenes of the closet, the switches, maybe some of the wireless access points. Probably not the projection units, not that we're scrapping, we may pull them out and use them as spares and such. We have some other ideas about what that will look like in the classroom, maybe different than projection units. We're getting to that, again, it's gonna happen in 2 years, but what we're hearing and seeing is the cost of operating a projection unit versus a flat panel monitor or a display, and the size and not replacing bulbs and some of those other pieces is getting to be there. So, you're looking at some different options for the school.
Less smart boards and more just videos?
We don't have that many smart boards currently at the middle school, so except for those locations where we need that touch interactive piece, some special ed and some plays.
I think we have 5 or 6 currently in the middle school.
So definitely projection units in every room, but it's the projection units as a large display.
How much is student email used? Is that a lot, does that generate a lot of traffic, students emailing teachers, students emailing each other, or do they have access to email, correct?
They have access, it's definitely being used. I've never run any numbers on number of email messages or amount of traffic. I don't think we could ever isolate that traffic from other traffic, but definitely.
Is that also a security concern as far as clicking on links that are not appropriate?
Absolutely. I think, what I was telling the sharing that Google situation a couple months ago, we had a bank of students that did it as well, and we definitely had to circle back with them, have conversations about that, and made us realize that not only do we have to educate our staff, we have to educate our students about those things as well, so absolutely.
So is some of those educational pieces going to be done with the students also?
Yeah, I think one of my goals for this next year, one of my thoughts is there's some student education, some parent education, some other pieces that I'm planning to work with middle school, high school principals on this coming year around that, and some other topics that I feel like we're to that point where we need to do some heighten some awareness of pieces of security and usage and schools.
Was that the only hit that we experienced, or are there other, do we track how many,
What's that?
do we track how many incidents of potential
No,
breaches?
we really haven't had, you get an occasion, a virus here, teachers work on that, or they question it, but it's really been
Pretty,
so
so far
good.
so good. And do you ever, at work, now we're starting to actually test employees, send fake ones out to see who's going to bite? And then if you get,
Right.
if you're one of those people that clicked more than once, you're going to
No,
have
we
to.
haven't done that yet, so the theory behind it is educate your people first.
Right.
And then you run those tests later and see what your click rate, what your click rate is. It's not something we have done, we haven't talked about something we would do in the future, but I know a lot of organizations and other school districts have done that.
Yeah, that's actually the same question I was going to ask. It's very easy to link it to like a SurveyMonkey survey to just see how many people actually click and reply. But, a fake phishing scam from Dr. Miller's desk or from someone else's desk is fairly easy. But, it was kind of my question along the lines of the WannaCry about locking people's computers and asking for some sort of ransom, the whole ransomware attacks. Was that at some point, what would happen in our district if that happened? If someone clicked during the clickbait exercises and all of a sudden that popped up through the next virus push, was all of a sudden they locked the district's computers, what do we do? And do we have a rapid response plan or something in place where we have an action
Yeah, so we're
plan?
starting to have conversations more and more about that. So I guess from a good news, most of our data doesn't reside locally on a machine in terms of what we keep track of. They're on servers. So I'm more concerned about them having our servers than our machines. While it would take a lot of time, our IT guys could pretty quickly, but could re-image the machines as batches for zero. Obviously, anything on a machine would be lost. I think you may stuff we're on, some reasons for educating our people. Is that the best case to reduce your risk is to educate your people, to run some of those click tests and to do that. Up until this year, I'm not sure how many of our staff members knew ransomware existed or those things happen or that could happen to us. So I think that education is
Regarding the WISCNet, we get these newsletters, educational newsletters, and I just saw last week that WISCNet offers the Securely. It's the cloud-based secure program. Are you looking into that also?
Yeah, I did talk to them, I looked at Securely this past year as a competing product, so we currently use Lightspeed. And there's pros and cons, I guess, I'll leave it at that, weighing some challenges it would create potentially for our students when they're off campus versus on campus, and the need for them to have to log in and sign in multiple times on a frequent basis to that Securely system. So at this point, we're not gonna make any changes, but it is something that, besides just offering internet services, they have discounted rates for some products, specifically education, that we could tap into. They also have some like network security audit services and some of those pieces that definitely, now that we are a part of that membership, we'll look at some of those opportunities to do that. So we're aware of that at this point. We're not gonna make that change now. We've got one more year on our current software and then see where that lands and where Securely kind of fits the mold, and if that's a direction we might want to take.
So students are monitored at home
Yes.
now? Okay. And then the first fiber that we purchased back in 2009, I think, is it still fully functional? Everything's good?
Yeah, I guess maybe to clarify, so the fiber we did then was to connect the buildings back to the ECC.
Okay.
And this would be fiber to get from here to Alverno to get us to that internet pop, to get us the connectivity to WISCNet.
Okay. And I have a technical question specifically to the board on our website. It's with our emails. Right now, when someone wants to contact the board, they have to type in every email of the board when they want to get all of us. There is a contact the board little square. Is there a way you could create an email for all board members that it,
Megan question. Throw out the spot. We'll look into it. I don't know if that
Well-
website has that capability to put multiple email addresses for you. But basically, when they click that, contact the board, we want all of you to get that message.
if they want that choice, yeah.
We'll have to look into it. I don't know off the top of my head if that's possible or not. Again, I can look at that.
Because now they have to go through each board member and they're probably copying and pasting.
Sure, sure.
So-
Yeah.
Oh, and if you get that Microsoft call at home, what do you tell them? It-
Yeah.
Never mind.
You're being recorded.
Yeah.
I just hang up. Right.
I was wondering.
A question, I know you have 4 outstanding staff that, are the core of our support, but do they relate to the library specialists at all? I mean, what is the hardware support at each school? Because there's only 4 of them, obviously they're not on site.
So in our libraries, we have aides who do the day-to-day. When a student has a question with their Chromebook, they start there in the library. But if it can't be fixed or repaired by some of the things that we train them to do, then it comes over to the IT team to be fixed and repaired. They really do the kind of basic troubleshooting, like restart your machine and let's check your login, or those really basic low-level things. They're doing projection unit repairs, smart board repairs, printer changes. My hard drive crashed on my device, so my IT staff are doing those staff repairs or sending them out for service, those kinds of things. End user questions. I can't get onto the Wi-Fi, those kinds of help desk type tickets that come in with troubleshooting.
And we do have a help desk then with the tracks, tickets and stuff, and it's been pretty steady, there hasn't been, what do the numbers look like? Are they growing, are they stable, are they?
Yeah, they're stable. I know last comparison report, I thought it felt like it was a lighter year, and it was the same. So it's been pretty consistent year to year. I thought, maybe as we added all those Chromebooks and more changes, that it would, add more equipment, it would go up, but it really stayed steady.
I'd assume they're down for this month.
What's that?
I would assume the numbers are down for this month.
No, they're all turned in, right? all machines are
Right,
on
and
site
most
right
of the
now.
staff aren't here, so our numbers are pretty low usually in July.
We still have a bring your own device policy, right? So do people bring their own devices?
I think you'll see students still have their phones on them, but I don't think students bring as much their laptops because there's certain times of the year, testing and some other times where we require, the only way they can do the test is to have their Chromebooks, and they've gotten accustomed to, this has everything I need on it, so I think you're seeing less of that. We still have the policy, they still can.
So their phone tends to be the device that they could use.
It doesn't have to be.
Oh, but you're not going to find a kid without one on their person. So,
Are there any other questions? Thank you for your report. Thanks for coming. Item 9B is the annual adoption of the academic standards. This is for 2017-18 school year. And, oh, that's right, we're,
Yeah.
Reuter
Yeah,
and
Mr. Reuter.
Mr. Coyne.
Yeah, so this is the third year, I believe, in a row now that we've brought the same report to the board. As a statutory requirement, on an annual basis, we need to approve the public notice of our academic standards, as well as approve our academic standards as an organization. So both reports state that there have been no changes to our academic standards that the board has adopted through curriculum review cycle. So Mr. Cohn and I are just looking for an approval of both notices this evening.
okay, so I'm looking for a motion.
I would make that motion.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Larson, is there a second?
second.
Second by Mr. Nielsen. Is there any discussion?
I guess I see that we're at Common Core for our basic, I thought we exceeded Common Core. That's what where I get the impression that we exceeded Common Core in these areas. Because I understood that we were better than Common Core, but if I were to read this, it looks to me like we're Common Core.
Correct. You have approved through our numerous curriculum review cycles over the last 5 years of Common Core standards, but it's our expectation as a district to teach beyond those and exceed those standards and assess beyond those standards. But there are formalized standards that we approve that are the benchmark of our curriculum.
Does it say that here? I guess I don't, again.
Yeah, the paragraph above it states that they're trying a public school district to exceed these standards through the implementation of rigorous curriculum. It is the goal of.
There's two documents. One is
Yeah,
the
which one
notice.
are we-
One
what
is
are
a
we?
notice, and one is,
There's a public notice, and then there's the annual approval of academic standards that Mr. Nielsen referred to the opening paragraph.
I think I'm looking at the public.
It'd be the second document in board docs.
Is the public one?
No, annual approval of academic standards.
Which one? Is that the public one?
Should be the second one, Linda.
What the public is seeing, the notice.
The notice, right.
And that does not,
Some pretty generic language that needs to be in the public notice.
Yeah.
It's a little less descriptive than the report.
For clarification, if we were to adopt our own higher standards, we'd have to rewrite basically each one of the Common Core standards that this links to include our higher standard. So we would be basically editing what's out there ready for us to approve, even though we're already going to exceed the standards that we're going to approve.
Correct.
I don't think that other district that did that has even completed it yet, has it? It's been 2 years, maybe? Germantown? That,
That's my only understanding of the only other district in the state of Wisconsin that has not adopted the Common Core state standards.
and I don't think they finished yet, so.
I'm not aware, but
Yeah.
you haven't heard much about it.
So on this list, they have Wisconsin model academic standards in, Wisconsin model academic standards in. So there is no Wisconsin model academic standard for reading and writing or literacy. Those are just the
Correct.
Common Core, is that
Because the
correct?
state of Wisconsin adopted the Common Core standards as their model academic
Right.
standards.
For math and literacy.
and also language arts?
Yeah.
Literacy is all language arts, reading, writing, speaking, and listening.
Is there any other discussion?
So we can't modify this to say that these are base standards and our curriculum exceeds that? Can we say that somewhere?
We have that in our student academic standards for Franklin Public Schools notice here. Not the public notice, but we have in our notice for academic standards that we are committed to use benchmark and rigorous academic standards to set high expectations.
Other document. Let me just take a look at that.
And that's what goes on the website too, correct? Yeah.
And the teaching and learning page outlines all
Yeah.
of these in our assessment practices.
Did you find that statement, Linda?
I see it now. So what is, where is the public notice then put or
It's mailed.
noticed?
It's mailed. It's put in the packet, correct?
No, my question is, we're going to notice the public with this document, correct? And where is that posted for the public to see?
On the district website on the teaching and learning page.
Are they going to see the notice, or are they going to see the second document?
The notice.
And why are there two of them? Why don't we have one?
That's statutory requirement.
Oh, it states that.
And once you're in the teaching and learning page, you can click per subject area and read deeper about the standards utilized, the assessment and instruction
So both of
practices,
these-
and our curriculum that aligns to it.
So both of these documents are on our website? Both of the documents that we have that are in board docs are on our website?
Verify my question.
This would also be part of the annual notice, where there are a number of things that we have to articulate annually. And if you want to speak to how that's published, you could perhaps review that.
Annual notices we do every year. It's a listing of things we're required to share with the public. So that is in each one of our school offices in case anyone would request a copy. It's on our website. We post it in the front of the ECC. Dr. Miller and I just had a review conducted of our annual notices to make sure we're all in compliance.
There's a lot of active links within the annual notices to go deeper into these sites where you can find more information, but it's required by law to be there.
Ms. Wachowski, if your question is, can we add the language about exceeding standards to the public notice? The
That's my
answer is
question.
Yes, we can do that.
That's what I'm asking,
Yes,
because that is our intent, right? So let's tell the
Yes.
public we're doing that.
we can do that.
Thank you.
You bet.
So then we're not mailing anymore, it's all electronic.
It's all, and
Okay.
it's allowable.
Okay, a motion by Mrs. Larson, a second by Mr. Nielsen. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Thank you. The next item is 9C, the superintendent's evaluation process. What this is during our board self-evaluation, we mentioned that we wanted to go over the superintendent's evaluation, and then we did mention possibly revamp the 360-degree evaluation, and so I'm looking for a committee, and I just wanted to ask the board tonight if you think you wanted to have 2 board members on the committee or 3, and then there would also be Dr. Miller and possibly Mr. Milzer on the committee. And then if you're interested in it, you just email me, and then I'll put the committee together. But I think we need to get that committee going so that we have this done in time for evaluation time. So normally a committee, I think, has 2, but we have on the health committees, I think we've had 3 health insurance, so what does the board think?
I think we had 3 people on that committee for our self-evaluation, the board self-evaluation.
That was just, yeah, that was 3 of us,
It was
okay.
the 3 of us,
And that was
yeah.
only us, so it's just whatever the board,
But I mean, in that instance, it was input that we wanted to have on our own performance.
yeah.
So I think the most valuable opinion would be yours, Dr. Miller, on what you think is going to be the most valuable information. So even looking at that survey is very similar to the survey that we started out with, the same categories in which you would try to rate the performance in some of those categories. So, I mean, I would suggest that we try to mirror what we changed with the board evaluation policy to making it more straightforward, more evidence-based evaluation versus strongly agree, strongly disagree.
And then in here, you don't have to look at it tonight, but Megan did put in the current 360-degree evaluation, so that would be something that would be gone over too. And I do have links from another meeting, or from a conference I went to, that I could send to whoever's on the committee to look at too for suggestions. But, so,
And just as a question, who received the 360 evaluation in the past? Was it a select group, or was it,
you'll see, it was about 15 people, wasn't it, Megan?
but it was
Just
selected?
Selected. So from the conference I went to, the suggestion was you send it to the whole community.
Right.
And all staff and the board. So, but that, that's something for us to all decide, so. So the last time, so this is going to include first revamping the evaluation, and then after that, the policy, just like we did with the board self-evaluation. So I know the last time we did the policy, there was 2 board members on it, because it was Mrs. Klein and myself. Were you on that too? We met here in this room, but I'm looking at you, Debbie. Not you. But anyway, so do we want
Oh.
2 board members or 3? I mean, no matter what, it's going to come back to the board, so.
It would depend on the level of interest. What's your timeline on this? I mean, I'd be okay with 2 or 3. I don't think that really
Yeah,
matters. Depends
I'm
on-
fine with 2, but the timeline is, it needs to be done in order for it to be put together.
By next
And
week.
and if we get new survey, no, I mean, we have until December, actually.
Right. The end of
No.
January is when the board would have to make a decision about the contract continuing. So-
Yeah, but sending a survey out to the whole community,
Mhm.
and if we're going to get new survey technology and stuff, so it'd be nice to have it done by November at least, or,
With Dr. Miller being involved, I think 2 is fine. That's 3 individuals. Otherwise,
well, and then
the
Mr.
way the
Mills
3
too.
individuals worked on the board, I thought the board evaluation was fine. It helped expedite everything.
I think 3 is a good idea, just, we always have that devil's advocate in that group, so it gives people more to think about. So I would go with 3. I thought 3 was good.
Alan?
I'm good with 2.
If there's 3 people that want to do it,
Yep,
I'm
you're
okay
right.
with it.
I'd be fine with 2 or 3.
Okay, if you're interested, send me an email as soon as you can. And then we'll work from there. And that's all I had on that. So the next is item 9D, the approval of the 2017-18 budget draft. Mr. Milzer?
Yes, at the last meeting, we talked about the budget. You had some time to look it over. We had some questions and answers. In the interim, I've taken a look at the budget, specifically the tax levies, and made 2 changes and given you an updated copy. The expenditures are the same as they were on the other version, but for debt service, in this one, I'm showing us using some fund balance to bring the debt service payment down for this year, because this year's payment is a little higher than it is in the future. It's pretty level after this, which brings that down. And also, we received the July 1st estimate on our equalization aid from the state, and we were able to see the factors that they believe they're going to be using when we get into the fall, which gives us extra funds. So I've made a change in that, so we're receiving $300,000 more in equalization aid, and then it lowered our tax levy for the general fund or educating students. So that comes out about 0. I think it's maybe a $13,000 increase. And then the debt levy is down also, so that the total tax levy is only up 1.5% versus the 4.38% that we had in the last draft. But all the expenditures are the same.
It's a pretty substantial change.
It is.
Nice.
Thought it was good.
That is good. Because the increase in debt service as a result of the referendum was 3-something, 2-something? The percentage.
2 point,
We had 4-point-some projected increase, but of that, what was the, just for the referendum?
Yeah, it was most of it. I can take a look at that. I think I have that here.
I want to say we had talked about this last time, and the levy increase was around 1.
yeah, you're right, it was
So
a little over 1.
3.4 or something, so this is actually a decrease. almost two. Right.
And the state budget's not done yet, right?
No,
So there's not a round of revenue coming at us?
that's what we're hoping for.
So there's still hope for even a further reduction.
Yes,
You're keeping the assumption of 100 per student, though, not the
right.
200?
We
still?
didn't change that.
Okay.
Yeah, and that one, that stayed the same. And I would still, even where we're looking at now, I would still expect that we would get a little more aid in the fall than we are projecting now.
Here's the other budget was 1.09. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah,
Yes.
it was 4.38.
Yeah,
Now it's
yeah.
1.5.
Jim, can you walk us through again about adopting this draft one and the process until we actually adopt the budget?
Sure, this is this draft that gets us started for the year, and again, almost everything is estimated. We haven't, at the point that we put this together, we hadn't hired staff, but all of those are estimates. We go to the annual meeting with draft number 2, although at the point we're at, I don't think there'll be any changes in draft number 2. We'll just continue with draft number 1. There'll be a vote on the tax levy there, and then in September, we'll do our count of students. That'll be the number, one of the numbers we need to figure out how much aid we're going to get. And then the state will make their determination in October, and around October 15th, they'll give us that information. We'll make the changes that we need in the budget to take into account all the actual staff, the positions they took, what benefits they chose, how many students we have, and our aid. We'll bring that all together at the last meeting in October for the board to approve our actual final budget for the year.
So would you say you have a fair amount of questions on the expenditure side right now as well? I mean, there's more on the revenue side coming from the state, but you said with the actual,
We have a lot of estimates.
even on the expenditure side.
Yeah, it isn't that what we're doing is going to change, it's who came into that position, who did we think was going to come, how much did we think they were going to make, who did we actually get, those kinds of things.
So some hiring to do, not done hiring everyone yet.
Yeah.
Working on it.
So the new assistant principal is funded in here then?
It
At the
is.
high school?
It is. It's in the
And do
budget.
we intend to fill that at the beginning of the year, or wait to see after the,
We intend to fill that position.
or you do intend to fill it?
We intend to fill the position for the associate principal at the high school.
The new one?
Correct, correct.
So we'll start the year with 3.
Correct. That is the plan. I'm working on hiring a high school principal first.
Correct.
So the timeline's a little tight here, but I'm assuming I'll be able to hire someone for the start of the school year.
Well, I did have a few questions I had sent to Jim, and one of the questions was related to leadership opportunities for teachers. That was one of the goals, and he did indicate that there were, 7 leadership positions established. I'm assuming some of those were at the high school. And I believe that the assistant principal we're adding was to address some of the need to be in the classrooms for curriculum purposes. And I guess I'm wondering if those teacher leaders may be more, I'm feeling they might be more effective and just more on the ground than another oversight position coming into the classroom. So, and I guess I wasn't aware of the implementation of these leadership positions prior to hearing about the need for the assistant principal. So I'm wondering,
Head
we
principal.
want to try that first, or, why?
Sure, and we can respond together, because this was a plan we built together. The assistant principals actually supervise employees. They're licensed to do that. They can write evaluations, they can discipline employees. These individuals would not be in a position to do that. They're instructional coaches. They coach, so they have a very different role with the teacher. So that's just a difference there.
Correct, but they could provide information to the,
They certainly would be working with the staff, but they're going to do a little bit more than just work individually with teachers, if you want to take that piece of it and discuss that a little bit.
Sure, the program educator position that Mr. Cohn and I happy to add teacher leadership to the capacity of the district, is really our third band of our compensation framework. So these are teachers who teach full-time, but are given a salary enhancement and release time to help develop curriculum and professional development to enhance teacher practice. So they're teachers who interviewed for positions. We brought through a process to look at the qualities they could implement, that they're very highly successful teachers, and how we can take their practice, hone in on it, and help expand the capacity of all of our teachers, specifically in the lens of K-12 literacy and math for this upcoming school year.
With the added benefit of them being in the classroom, so they're able to put into practice the kinds of things that are helping us develop over time.
So that work does not occur during the school day, or when does that work occur?
It could, but the salary enhancement piece is beyond the school day, but there might be release time where they're coordinating teachers to be in a lab site and see a highly effective teacher in their practice that may benefit all learners, so that we can utilize those practices in professional development days. Our system specialists can coach around that. And to Dr. Miller's point, associate principals and principals can supervise around that, provide formative feedback and summative feedback towards their evaluation and retainment as employees.
And this is a new, you're implementing this as a new, something that'll be new this year?
Correct.
Yes.
So in the spring, when Dr. Miller sent out the contracts to teachers, there's description around the program educator position and the qualities we were looking for. And Mr. Cohn and I interviewed 13 teachers in grades K through 12 for these positions, and then awarded 7 positions for this upcoming year within the budget, working with Mr. Milzer.
Just a couple of other comments about it. You might recall, years ago, we used to have this major curriculum review process. We don't do that anymore. You know, curriculum is reviewed continuously, and these individuals are in roles that are going to help us to do that, to gauge where we're at with the curriculum, bring new ideas about curriculum, help us measure what needs to be done. So it's not this like, oh, we're not getting a new curriculum for 5 years. You just got to sit tight and do what you're doing for 5 years. We don't do that anymore. Curriculum is constantly being developed and brought forward, and these individuals will help with that. The other factor here is that, you know, to build a good culture, teachers need to have leadership opportunities. They want to do this kind of work, and we have to provide opportunities for them to do that, frankly, to retain a number of these people. And they're talented, and they're doing great things for us. So it's really a very nominal salary enhancement for the amount of benefit that we're going to get from this. So I really think it's a good plan for the district. It extends what we're doing around coaching and providing support to teachers, and again, creating a better culture as a result.
I understand what you're saying is you're not objecting to that, you're objecting to the associate principal.
Correct. I see that as a more effective method to address what I think we're trying to address with the additional principal, which
But it-
was to,
But you know, there's this capacity issue around that. You know, having one person isn't going to nearly accomplish what we're accomplishing with our program educators. And, you know, a primary thing we want to see happen are those APs visible in the hallways and out among the students throughout the school day, interacting with them as well. And, you know, adding one person to cover what we're doing with the program educators is not balanced, it's not equal.
so I guess you just said that you wanted the assistant principals in the hallways so students can see them. I understood the issue was somewhat, I mean, some of the data you presented was really related to teachers.
It is. I
and
want them
then-
to supervise teachers very closely and provide feedback that will impact their performance in the classroom. It is, absolutely that. That's very important. And then the third piece was, of course, we talked about the number of discipline referrals and mental health issues, and, you know, the need to support families and students in that regard. And we need 3 people to do that, to do it well.
It just seems that was, you know, you can have 7, you're adding 7 positions to increase focus on curriculum when you got teachers leading versus assistant principal.
They're not 7 at the high school, however, we're adding.
Correct, I know.
7
they're-
district-wide,
right.
4 in literacy, and 3
And it's
in
more
math.
around curriculum, not grade level or
K-12 curriculum.
K-12
it's
curriculum.
really grade level. Okay.
So there are, in literacy, there's a person at the 9-12 level, there's a person at the 6-8 level, and 2 at the K-5 level. But again, they're helping develop professional development, model high-quality teaching practices. They're not, to Dr. Miller's point, supervising, providing feedback, and helping grow a teacher from a HR lens and capacity lens that way. They're helping develop, like through Reader's Workshop as we're implementing at the elementary level, understanding workshop design, understanding their standards that we talked about this evening, and how to make that come alive. Then it's monitored and evaluated through a licensed administrator.
Okay, thank you
You're
for
welcome.
explaining that.
Thank you for asking the question.
And I just have one other question. I did learn also that we have new staffing plan for the food service area. Are we doing something different to, I don't know. I already know it's a new staffing plan. I'm interested in what it does. Does it save us money? What was it designed to do?
I'm going to defer to Mr. Milzer, who's worked directly with Ms. Hutler on this issue.
Yeah, I would say it's changes in staffing to make us as efficient as possible and still getting the job done. So there's a number, they looked at every position there, and there were positions that have fewer hours than they used to. They work fewer days during the year. Some duties were shifted around to make things operate better, and that people who could, say, do a better job at things were given more of an ability to do that. I don't think it's completely shaken out yet. Just like with everything else, we haven't hired the people for the open positions yet. But they spent quite a bit of time doing this towards the end of the year, and in the budget, it's reflected that the costs have gone down. It may stay that way, if depending on who we hire, they may come back up a bit. So we're not exactly right there, but that was what they were trying to do.
So would you say you're adding bodies or hours to on the food service side, or?
No, it's
going the
less.
other?
Less hours in total, especially with the fewer number of days that they're working, where we didn't maybe need so many people towards the end of the year, cleaning up and doing those kinds of things. They're trying to cut days out, as well as some positions reducing it. Sometimes it's not a lot, it's a half hour here and a half hour there, but if you do that with 12 people, it adds up over a year.
And is that more district-wide you're talking, or is this more
District-wide food service.
proportional? Because it seemed like some of the reports from last year was, they almost could have used more people at the high school level. So I didn't know if this was just kind of a shifting around, or if it was across-the-board reduction, because it seemed like that would be going the other way from their needs at the high school.
Mhm. Yeah, it's kind of across the board, but some of it is at the high school. But you may see an extra position there where you've cut all of this, but you get an extra position that's there when they need the hands there, and then they aren't working as long. So there's some of that too, but in total it was a reduction.
And is that not, I'm guessing, is it in response to maybe difficulty in getting these positions filled? Because it seems to be the most popular position.
I definitely had a conversation with them about thinking differently about staffing because of retention issues. So I think this is probably the result of that.
And I'm not suggesting that we outsource or anything, but what is what's happening out there in terms of food service? We're still in-house with all of our, what other district, you go to any conferences, there's gonna be tons of people providing. What's the thought there? You've looked at that, we're never gonna do it, or you're?
Right, we've looked at that. It didn't provide what we were looking for, and we lost control of a lot of things. And I talked to districts who have gone that way, and they can't get back out of it because they don't own the equipment anymore, and they don't have enough money to put the equipment all back in. So they're stuck. They have to go with a company, whether it's company A, B, or C. And now the Department of Public Instruction has gotten into it, and every other year or every couple of years, they have to go through this massive bid process. Every district that has an outside provider, and the department supplies this, I don't know, it was a horrible form. I was so glad we didn't have this. The other business managers were talking about it, on how many pages of information this was. And in the end, they ended up with their same companies, because companies didn't have the ability to take on 10 more districts, and were a little more happy to keep the districts that they had. So there wasn't, it didn't really work on the bidding front, at least in this area. There weren't so many bids coming in, yeah, that were really interested in taking the business. Some of them were really high, and they ended up with the same company. One of them was close, and the end was $5,000 less on, our food services, $1.2 million. For
It's on them.
$5,000, they changed companies.
It's on them, they're managing it, the day-to-day, you're not,
Yeah, it wasn't,
just saying.
wasn't like that.
Is there anybody in the area that does contract out? Does Oak Creek contract out?
They contract out.
Mhm. Yeah, at this point, most of them do.
I think their lunches cost much more.
Mhm.
They're not in a, they can't have a consortium like
Right.
we
Oh, to
do.
buy milk?
All the food, you get
Right.
much of our food.
Right.
I heard that, well, I think they have much fresher food, but their prices are more expensive.
Well, as far as the equipment issue, we can still own the equipment and they can operate it, right?
You don't know as they do that.
I mean, it's
That-
one way to operate, you own the equipment and they take over everything.
It didn't sound like it. It sounded like they had all their own equipment.
They
Well, you
all-
can do it differently, you don't have to do it that
Wow.
way. Different models out there. Okay, I'm just,
If
I was just
if
wondering.
it's a good thing, we'd go for it. We've looked at it a number of times, and it just hasn't been better for us.
I know there's a lot of questions to be answered yet as we go through the months coming up and as you get more information. But one thing that I'd like to see is if we do end up with more money from the state coming down the road this year, is to put that toward debt service. So keep that tax levy where it is. But the more we can plow into our debt when we have it, the better we're going to be in the future. So that's just a thought I had. I just want to
Okay.
share that.
And then with having a zero tax levy in 15, 17, and then zero last year, and then 1.5, that's really good.
Right.
It's very good.
Right.
I have a question about, or a comment about the education and recreation narrative you had in here. I know
Oh,
that's
okay.
not part of this, but it mentions in here that, because we're short on space, and then with Forest Park Middle School, the Southwest Kickers won't have any place to go, and they use fields. Their teams are not just from Franklin, they're from Greenfield, Hales Corners, Greendale, and they only use fields in Franklin and Greendale. So I'm just wondering, there are school fields in the other areas, but they use most of our fields. And I'm wondering why. I mean, they use a lot of their fields are Robinwood and Southwood Glen and maybe Countrydale?
Do they pay for it?
I think
Yes.
some of the officers of the organization live in the community, and maybe those are the communities that they live in and they're most familiar with, that they end up like that. Could be the other communities have told them no, they can't use them, so they end up coming here.
And that's fine, but I was just wondering if we're short on space because of our building project, that hopefully they'll search in other school districts that
Right.
they have children.
Right, and we let them know in plenty of time so that they have time to look around, that they will not be able to use this.
Can I ask a question on the pool update? We're talking budget here.
Yeah, in fact, we just heard today that they're finishing up the repair. It was a lot less extensive than it could have been, which was good news. And they're going to start filling within a week. So we'll have the pool, well, as long as the repair works and the water stays in the pool will be up and running before we needed it in August.
Was it just a crack?
It was a crack with a hollow space underneath it that they had to rebuild. It was in the oldest part of the pool that hadn't been touched.
Okay, then we're looking for a motion to approve the 27-18. Is this still budget draft number 1?
We should call it number 1, sure.
1A or 1B?
Dated July 12,
Okay.
2017.
Budget draft number 1 dated July 12, 2017, and that is just this document, not this entire publication we received last time. So do I hear that motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Larson. Is Get a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Gamble. Any discussion? Hearing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Mrs. Larson,
Aye.
Mr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Gamble,
Aye.
Mrs. Evans,
Aye.
Mr. Nielsen,
Aye.
Mrs. Witkowski,
Aye.
and I say yes.
Motion carries 7-0. Thank you for all your work and for answering the questions, and I appreciated a lot of your questions. So,
Thank you.
so, okay, we'll move on to item 9E. The treasurer's report is available in the board docs library. And 10, future agenda items. The superintendent's district update will be August 23rd during the annual meeting of the electors. The adoption of the 27-18 tax levy, August 23rd, at the annual meeting of the electors. Item 11, school board meeting debriefing. Are there any comments?
One comment I neglected to make was to thank Mr. Gamble for setting up 4th of July for us. That was very nice, and it all worked out so well, and I think your wife was the best driver of all.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Thank you.
So thank you.
And there's more room in the trunk for more candy. Yeah, we could probably put at least 2 more boxes in there.
That would have been perfect.
Okay, then we're looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Nielsen,
Second?
second by Mrs. Witkowski. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned at 7:06 PM.